Welcome to another episode of Borderless Within, where we talk about identity, belonging, and the questions that shape our society today. I'm your host, Ahmed Abdi, and today we have a special guest, a very, very special guest. He was born in Somalia and moved to the United States as a teenager after fleeing the Civil War and became one of the most respected long distance runners in American athletics. He established himself early as a world-class distance runner, becoming a four-time national champion in the 10,000 meters. He went on to become a five-time Olympian, representing the U.S. Across track and marathon, and also earned a podium finish at the New York City Marathon. He's also an author of Abdi's World, the Black Cactus on Life, Running, and Fun, written with Miles Strag and featuring forward by Mo Farah. I welcome you so much all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, Mr. Abdi Abdirahman. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Ahmed. I'm glad to be on your podcast, man. Thank you.
I usually start with the simple but loaded question: Who is Abdi?
Who is Abdi? Man, Abdi is I would say is a man who was born in Somalia, born in Hargeisa, grew up in Mogadishu. Like my just first couple of years of life spent in Mogadishu, Kismayu. Just moved to US in 1990 as a refugee fleeing from the Civil War. Attend high school here, attend university here. So I just graduated from University of Arizona. Become a professional distance runner by luck, not a planned it. So I end up becoming a five-time Olympian. That's who I am.
Mm. So when you say by luck, what do you mean then?
I wasn't an athlete in high school, or just at young age I was not an athlete. So just like we all started in sports somewhere in life at the young age. Like at teens, maybe like 12 years old, 13 years old. I started my running career at 18 years old, my first year in college. And only the reason I started was because a lot of my friends at that time, some of them played basketball, some of them played soccer. So, and for me, I want to fit in. I want to become a part of them because of like every time after we finish our classes at 3 p.m., we will be in the cafeteria. Everybody will go to practice except me. And I say, Abdi, why don't you join the team, or just like any sports. I tried the soccer team. I thought I was good at soccer, like all Somalis do. We always think we're
Yeah,
professional
yeah,
soccer.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I tried that. I was not
Yeah.
good. So the second thing was running. I saw one guy running and he was getting dead last, and I said, if that guy can run, I can run too. So that's how I became a runner.
Wow. You never know where the career takes you, right? Like uh, did it align with you when you start running? Was it something that you really like felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like I'm actually good at this.
Definitely the first day, the first one, I remember the coach giving me a pair. No, he didn't even give me any pair of shoes. Actually, I was just wearing a jeans and just boots, like kind of like soft boots where you could run with them. So when he told me to run with the guys, I ran with the team. I remember we were running 8 kilometers, which is a 5 miles in American distance. So I became second my first time running, even though
The
before
first
I
time
was,
running.
yeah, first time running, I became second. One of my friend, through this day, he had sprinted me the last like a 200 meter because he didn't want to lose to this guy who just wearing jeans and rock boot. He had sprint me, and just when I crossed that finish line, I knew this is what I want to do, and I knew I was good at it. Just something, and I enjoyed the
Mm,
the key word is
mm,
I enjoyed. I loved it.
mm. Wow. Okay. So if I take you back a little bit, and I mean, you arrived in the U.S. as a teenager.
Yes.
From Somalia. So the first thing that comes to my mind is what do you remember from like about, if I say that, like about the actual transition internally, not the practical ones going to school and everything is different, but what is the internal shift or the transition? How did it feel?
It wasn't the easiest, as if, especially as a, as like I think I was 11 or maybe barely, maybe even 9 actually. Just yeah, it was most difficult just becoming with your family, becoming with my aunt, with my sister and brothers. It was not the easiest, just especially the first couple of years. You first and foremost, you don't know the language, you don't know the food. It's not what you get used to. It's just everything. It was just a
Mm,
life shock.
wow.
And also because we get used to going to the mosque, we get used to go to like madrasa, the Quran place, that all that thing you disappears right away.
Mm. So, when was then the first time you felt that you belonged in Africa, not African, sorry, the American part of the American athletics? The first time you felt like, okay, you know what, I belong here. I'm ready to represent the flag. Uh, when was it, and how did it feel?
Like for me, it was totally different. A lot this question, a lot of people can answer in different ways, but for me, even when I was even when I was done with the school, I didn't know like what the professional running was. If there's a professional running, I knew I was good at it, but I
Mm.
never knew I was gonna get paid for it. So like when the like my first contract was with Nike, they call me and they say, "Hey, Abdi, we would love to send you, like a multi-year deal with you as an athlete." And I say, "Wow." And I say, what will you guys get as a return?" They say, "Our return we'll get for you making the Olympic team." And then the
Oh.
Olympic, yeah, and for you to making the Olympic team, and making the Olympic team is representing the U.S., the country. The country give you that opportunity, just like like we all feel like a lot of the Somali guys, we all like end up different world of the party. Some of us end up in Australia, some of us UK, just all over the world. But for me, it just they give me an opportunity, to succeed in life, to do something with my life, this country. So it just was like at that time, and also like I didn't even know anything about Somalia. Somalia even have an Olympic. I knew they had an Olympic team, but they never even reach out to me and say, "Hey, you want to represent us?"
Mm.
So just for me, it was just like when I found out how big the Olympic was, even to make it and represent the country, and how can it make your life different and your family's life better. And that was just amazing opportunity for me, and also like just and also is honoring the country that you represent, because you're carrying the flag. You are part of the country.
Mm, absolutely. I remember I saw, I think I even made a reaction of it, a video with Piers Morgan and Mo Farah, and Piers was asking Mo Farah, asking him, there's a lot of people that doesn't see you to be British. What do you say about that? And he is answering is like everyone has, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I see myself, part of his identity is being British, or else he wouldn't run for the flag, obviously. And yeah, very interesting. I do understand what you were saying. Okay, so you've been representing the United States on the world stage, and you were born in Somalia. How do you now, define your identity today as Abdi Abdirahman?
Abdi Abdirahman, 100%. And this is something that I'm proud of. And at least I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know who my peoples are. It's not something that you take it lightly in life, just knowing your origin, where your heritage. And that's just, and also, yeah, and also like being an American is something I'm proud of, just because this country has given me an opportunity to be someone, I
Absolutely.
get to go to Olympics, which also they get the benefit, but I also get the benefit. It just is a win-win situation. There's always like there's always a part of me, just I would have loved to represent Somalia, just nothing could have been better than represent, but I never had that opportunity. So I cannot look back, just you always look in life, you always move forward, you never look back. But if you look back in life, there's so many things that you could change, and that will never be you. But the person I am today, I am just, is just the person I was destined to be.
100%. I love that mindset. We can't go backwards because it doesn't really change anything. And it's for us to, just look forward and just go on and try to make achievements out of what we have and the opportunities, that God gave us. And I think now I'm coming into my second point a little bit, which is more like a personal encouragement of other people who, because I know that you're a coach also, you're coaching other people that might be wanting also to achieve such a career, whatever it is. But as during your time or during your career, what was the lowest point, or when was the lowest point that you in your career, that you kind of dipped, and and also what kept you moving forward when things started to get very hard?
Yeah, I think my lowest point of my career was, I think, was 2016 during at that point I was I was already like I was already four-time Olympian at that time, and
Okay.
yeah, I was already a four-time Olympian because I made my first Olympics in 2000, and then 2016 I was going to make my fourth, like I was going to make my fifth Olympics. But I got injured like about, I think, two, and I think that was the prime of my career, and I got injured 3 weeks after trials. I had a calf problem, and I just and I thought that my world was crashing, just my running career was over. But at the end of the day, and that's where the people like surround you come in, your coaches, your family. That's when you need your support the most. And that's where I get the encouragement. And they say this is not the end of your career, just if you want to do, if you still love it. And that's when I found out I love running. It's not just for the fame and the everything that come with it, but I genuinely love running. I enjoyed it. And that's when they told me, and that was the lowest point. But at the same year I came back, and that's when I finished the podium in New York City, which is the hardest marathon, the world major. Just to finish top three in New York City Marathon is one of the pinnacle of the sports, our sports. There's a Super Bowl, there's NBA championship. So just it's 80,000 people, the best Kenyan runners, the best Ethiopian runners. Just yeah.
Yeah, wow. The reason why I asked you this is that obviously everyone has a time in their life where they dip, whether it's an injury or whether there's a tragic event in their lives that have happened. And you mentioned family, friends, coaches, and the people that are around, that surround you, uh, which is something very important, as I guess in life in general, not only in sports, right? Like etc.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that might not have that kind of a push, those voices that will tell you, you can do this, go forward and push this, and don't give up, etc. Um, what would your advice be to that kind of person being in his or her lowest?
Yeah, just like but that's life, though. To be honest, life it's never perfect. You will never have the right path. Everything will never be like smooth sailing. There's a saying that life will always throw you a curveball, and and just how you come out, it's just how you swing it, man. Just like for me, I would like that was my lowest point, but also like I have faced many other obstacles in life. Just not the easiest. Just first and foremost, being an African, being black, being a Muslim, nothing was easy, nothing was handed. And I knew that everything that I do, I have to do 110% more than other people who were the same position. And sometimes you see it, you never get treated by equally. You will never get treated equally. You will never get the some opportunity that other people get. But that don't take it like that thing is like people like don't like you, and just use it as a motivation. When people say you cannot do something, make sure you prove them wrong. Just take that thing motivation. When things are not going well, just it should be a motivation to you. That's the way I look at it.
Wow, 100%. The now I've had a question that I want to learn from you, or I would want to know, and I've always kind of asked myself when I watch all of the runners, and you are one of the top five, okay, and you can see the finish line, and you have two or three people from different types of countries running just next to you. And I would want to know what that voice inside of you is telling you during that time. What is pushing you to say that, I'm going to win this? What is that? I want to know, because having to run so many, we're talking 10,000 meters now, and you are exhausted. I don't know what you are feeling in your body in order for you to, come to the finish line. What is that push, the driving force, if I might say, like the driving force inside you that's telling you that, you're gonna win?
Like all athletes are different. All of them, we all have
Yeah.
different motivation. Like
Okay.
everybody, just like there's someone like Mo Farah who was just like he's one of my close friends, but just for him motivation was all about winning, all about like just not getting a silver or just trying to collect all those gold. Just and there's a Bashir Abdi who was just he want to win the race, even though like sometimes it doesn't go his way, but at least he knew he give it 110%. Everybody have different motivation, but the most important one is like crossing that finish line, knowing that even though you didn't win the race, but you won in yourself because you got 110% and you have nothing else left. Yeah, but if you cross that finish line and you do not give it your best or 110%, or you have a lot of tank in the left, you will always have that. You will always have that guilt of knowing that you could have given. So the main thing is to cross the finish line without having any guilt, even though you get fifth, sixth, even first place. But at least you win within inside yourself, and you give it 110%. And there's also like don't get me wrong, everybody want to win the race, but all the main thing is like everybody have a different motivation. Just like as a Kenyan, like as a Ethiopian, we're all running for different reasons. Just like some people are running for the for the glory of their the community, the people who support them, just going back home, supporting their family, just so many things. But also at the same time, when they win, they win. But when they lose, they also win. And that's what makes a great athlete. You have to have that motivation, great motivation, nothing like. And also, some athletes do cheat, but when they win, they always have that guilt, but they didn't win the right way.
Yeah. So when you are there running and there's just a couple of seconds left, inside you as you're running as a Somali, or are you running inside? Now I'm not talking about what nationality it's outside.
Yeah,
Is it the Somali force that is giving you a little bit push also?
always, man. That you know where you come from. It's where you
Yeah.
come from. As a Somali, we take a pride of being like the hardest working people, the smartest people. Just we don't take we don't take answer for no. That's the one thing I love about Somali, and I love about my culture, and just love my people because we are the people. We can go anywhere. Just that when we make something of out of ourselves, doesn't matter where we are. We can be in China. I remember this something that we always talk about. I remember 2008 Olympics. Me and Mofar, we were at the Olympic Village. We were at the Olympic Village in 2008. But we were at the cafeteria. We were having a lunch, I think, and we saw one Somali guy who was speaking Chinese. But I don't know. I know there's a lot of at that time of 2008 because we never been. That was my first time going to China, and the last thing I want to see at the Olympic Village is Somali guy who is working for the Chinese government, speaking Chinese, and that's what we find is how resilient our Somali people are. Wherever we are going to succeed regardless, and that's something that even our runners these days, like for us, we just needed someone to open the door for us, and we're going to do a great thing in life. More I have opened the doors for a lot of Abdi did open the doors for us, and then we learned. I came, Mo came. Now we have Bashir. Now we have Muhammad Abdullah. Now we have like so many great young athletes in the pipeline. As long as they know there's a success there, Somali will come, and they will work.
Wow. It's I don't know who was. I think it was Bashir. What is his name?
Bashir and Abdi Nageye.
Yes, Bashir and Abdi Nageye. Both of them, or was it only him, Bashir? There was a
So
club.
Abdi Nageye was getting the silver, and the other Kenya guy was coming, and Abdi Nageye
Yes,
said,
and it was Abdi Nageye. Yes.
yeah, we all want to succeed, and those guys are my brothers, dude. I was just I was talking to Abdi Nigay yesterday. I was telling him I'm coming to Kenya, so hopefully I will see him. Just like for us, like as a Somali, it doesn't matter where we came from. What like it just for me something that hurts me always and make me sad is just how we separate from each other. Like, but when we see each other inside Somalia, like we always do separation, but when we outside of Somalia, we are like one of the tightest community that you will ever know in your life because we all want to regardless of where you come from, what region or where you are, Somali is a Somali, and we always want to succeed with each other.
Yes. 100%. Wow. All right. Great. Okay. Uh, I'll give you two more questions, and if your life story had a uh, single sentence of philosophy, or single sentence of philosophy behind it, what would it be? Like just a single sentence of the whole journey that you have went through.
Oh, for me, I would say like follow your future with open heart and open mind, and never give up.
Okay. So if
You see,
someone would listen to you now, a young guy or young girl that would want to pursue this career, whatever it is, their career, what would you advise them?
my advice is whatever you do in life, or whatever you like pursue as a profession, or like even anything, even in school, nothing is easy in life. And just there's always will be obstacles, and that's obstacles is just a test. So do not just give up.
But I really would want to talk about your book, Abdi's World. What did you mean by the black cactus on life, running, and fun? Like black cactus. What did you mean by that?
Black Axe, that was first, that name came up with me and my neighbor. We were just, we're just the black guy is first my nickname first and foremost. It's not even just it's not a title or anything. It's my
Uh-huh.
nickname. It's just,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't
So
know
on
that.
the cactus, just I live in Arizona, so I live in Tucson, Arizona. There's a lot of cactus, and a lot of people don't know anything about cactus. It's just kind of like it's kind of like Arizona, like it's kind of unique to Arizona. So you cannot find it in other states. It's only in Arizona. And me being being a black guy, just a black cactus.
All right, okay. So how is the so the book is talking about, obviously, about your journey.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that have commented, like a very prominent people that have commented on it, and like we said, it was forwarded by Mo Farah. It could be found in Amazon today also. I've ordered mine. I hope to get it soon. Uh, what do you think that this book, the what it's actually advocating the most, the book?
The most the books advocating about just when whatever you do in life, just don't take it like just don't be like some people say when they have a job, they say they get burned out. Just how about the balance life and work basically in the real world. In the athletic world is just about just coming from like overcoming obstacles, like like just believing in yourself, just not giving up, and you just setting goals in life.
Mm,
Also like having like boundary with your training and also your family time. Just like not like don't let the work world or the athletic world consume you. Just you not only you just like don't be like on just on the circle. Just you should be more than what you are as a
mm.
human. Just not
So
around it.
you know, and this is very important because of the work. Sometimes what it does is that you might be affected at work
Yep.
or in your hobby or with friends, and this you will come home with this,
Yep.
and if it comes out of you, it will go on your family, where you sleep, where you eat, and where. And what is your recommendations on how to differentiate and be able to mentally categorize the worlds that you live in?
Just to be honest, like that's a full question. But for me as an athlete, sometimes if I get injured, let's see, if I get injured, that will affect me, will affect my coach, will affect my family, will affect all my friends because I'll be in a bad mood. I'm not gonna
Mm,
be happy. I'll be talking about it, my injury. I'll be like, just like you'll be doing a lot of things. In real life, I think like if you having a bad day at work, just oh things are not going well at work. I think like you should just take a few minutes before you even came to the house. Just like just reflect. You just drive in the house, go to the garage and then just come into the house. Just like maybe like give yourself a few minutes. Just give like just reflect in life. Just like just how thankful you are for what you have. Just and there's also in life. It doesn't matter how bad you are in life or how bad things are going. There's always someone have worse than you.
yes, 100%.
Yeah, just give yourself a few minutes just to reflect in life, man. That's because just if you don't do that, you're just gonna bring all your baggage to the house and gonna affect your family, the kids. You just like it just even you will talk to your family, but you'll try to hide, but you will never be genuinely yourself.
100%. Wow. Abdi Abdirahman, thank you so much for coming to this to my little platform. I'm very honored. I'm very grateful that you had the time to be part of this podcast, and I hope you well. I hope to see you. Maybe inshallah in Nairobi or in Addis or wherever that is over there. I like to travel myself to Africa and stuff. So, but thank you so much for coming.
Inshallah, brother. Yeah, inshallah, brother. Inshallah, we'll definitely catch up in Addis, man. Definitely, I'm gonna be in Addis most of the time. Being Addis, we'll just go have a lunch, Anjera, enjoy life,
Definitely,
brother. Just let me know.
definitely. All right, my brother. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.